In this part of the video series, we would like to cover some most important questions or most frequently asked questions or some common questions that you can face in Python interview, like pip, and interpreters, compilers, case sensitive language, or some important interview questions that are frequently asked. Of course, we have listed some 10 questions here, which is not confined. You can use it as a reference. So how the people can ask questions. So what kind of a question you might have expected. So you can start preparing a similar kind of question. For example, if you deal with something with list, you can expand it by dealing the same kind of stuffs with tuples, whether it is possible in tuple or whether it is possible in set. What is the same thing and how it works in string or a dictionary. So likewise, you should expand the things whatever we are speaking here. To start off with the video series on facts about Python interview series, uh, we start with one important and common question you can find straight away is what is pep 8? What is pep at least? See, pep is actually called Python enhancement proposal, which is a document, actually, which is a document that provides various guidelines to write the readable code in Python. That's all. So that is a design document to be called properly. That is a design document which gives guidelines to the user how to write the codes, how to use indents, how to write a better code. And Pep 8 actually describes how the developer can write some beautiful code with indent. And it was officially written in 2001 by Guido van Rossum, Barry Vasha, and Nick Coughlin. You know who is Guido van Rossum? Who heads the team who invented Python. Okay, and the main aim of PEP is to enhance the readability and consistency of the code. And it is simply that we can say it as a design document for providing information to the Python community by describing a new feature of Python or its process or its environment. So what is pip and what is the significance of using pip? This is one of the most common questions you can encounter in any Python interview. So you can expect this question right away. And to answer the question, you can start like this. Pip is a package manager for Python that allows you to install additional libraries and packages that are not the part of standard Python libraries, such as the ones which found in Python package index. Okay, pip is a package is similar to simply write it off. Pip is a package management system that is written in Python, which is used to install and manage software packages. That's all. Okay, and if you are using a version over Python 2.7.9 or 3.4 or 3.4, then pips comes pre-installed already with Python, so there is no need to install it again. And it is simply a command line utility that installs, reinstalls, uninstalls the Python packages, and that too which is in Python package index. So there are several packages, libraries that are listed in Python package index for every version. As time goes on, so many open source contributors would contribute so many packages. Those were indexed in Python package index that you can found in python.org actually. And those people, this is not something new. If you have already used Ruby, in Ruby uses gem, and in JavaScript uses npm for package management, and for .NET we are using NuGet, NuGet. So it is simply Python installer installs pip automatically, so it is ready to use, and unless you have installed the older version of Python. So it is something which is come as a part of the Python interpreter itself in advanced or recent versions of Python. So the next question is Python a scripting language or a programming language? So what is the difference between a programming language and a scripting language? The only difference that exists is that scripting language does not require any compilation, it directly interprets. For example, the programs written in languages such as C, C++ are compiled before execution, whereas the program written in scripting languages such as Python or JavaScript are directly interpreted and are not compiled. So a scripting language is one that is interpreted. Python is an interpreted language. Python uses an interpreter to translate and run its code. Hence, Python is a scripting language. Is Python a case sensitive language? And to answer the questions, yes, Python is a case sensitive language. And if we write a variable in a small letter and we wanted to use it further in the program, then use it in the same manner, or else it will be considered as a new variable and error will be prompted. So for example, if we are using as in the slide variable in which the first letter capital V, you must, whenever you are using the same variable again, you must use the name as identifier name as variable with capital V, or else if you go with small variable, everything smaller case, for example variable equal to 25, if I wanted to access 25, I need to call the name properly, or else I cannot be or else I'm not able to access to variable the 25. Okay, in simple words we can say it cares and it differentiates between uppercase and lowercase. What is the difference between interpreter and a compiler? So compiler is one that takes the entire program and it is compiled first, and it is converted into the machine level code and which is then executed. But whereas interpreter takes every single line of the code, it executed and then goes to the next line. So line after the line, the execution happens in an interpreter line after the line. Okay, so by looking at the mechanism itself, we came to know that in one shot we have converted, and running is actually faster. It is very fast. Compiler is much faster than interpreter. But there is a problem on it. You need to know two things to use compiler. So what are the two things is that you need to know what are the data and how much data you are going to be manipulated before you started to code it. In most of the cases it is okay. If you are dealing with some smaller scientific problems, you will be knowing about it. But if you are dealing with some real-time problems, most of the cases we don't know. For an instant example, I cannot predict the exact characters in a person name. So without predicting the person name, how can I require a data type? How can I reserve some data type that stores the name effectively with minimal wastage? So it is hardly not possible, right? So we can only allocate more number of space so that the user it can hold the user's name. How so? In case of Python, there is no need for that. Okay, it creates everything dynamically. Again, the second aspect is that one aspect is that you should be clear known about what you are going to do and what are the types and size of the data you are going to manipulate. And second is that it requires more memory, because we have completed the object code itself. You has to hold the source code, bytecode, and object code, and finally the object code is someone it's getting executed. But there is no case of no business of converting an object code and holding it in memory until get its completion gets over. There is no need for that. So we can save some serious memory by using interpreter. And again, debugging process, it is very difficult in case of compiler, because the entire code gets compiled. After the entire code getting compiled, then errors will be prompted. In most of the cases, you just take an example of C compiler, most of the syntaxes and semantic errors would be addressed before we compile itself, of course. But we are not able to spot on the errors which are specific to some lines, like logical errors, or some errors which are not able to which are beyond the scope of syntax and semantics. Okay, so because Python goes line after the line, we can spot error straight away in exact line. We can predict, okay, this is the line where the execution stops, so there must be some problem here. We can address it straight away, so it is simpler in case of debugging. And the examples of compilers and interpreter, C++ are using compilers, and Python is one of the most famous language that uses interpreter, in fact. So when a list or any sequence is said to be mutable, and when it is said to be immutable. Mutable means we can change the values of a variable which we have stored inside. Immutable means we cannot change the values of the variable that we have already stored. Right? So here, list is a mutable sequence, dictionary is a mutable sequence. Of course, you are not able to change the key. Once you have created one, you can change the value only. So set is mutable, but every element is unique and must be immutable, because keys in dictionary are unique and they are immutable. So you can see these two are some disclaimers. Set is mutable. You can add any elements. You wanted to pop element, delete, you can also pop it. There are ways discarding the element from a set, but every element must be unique and it must be immutable. So set holds no duplicates. If you give 100 ones as an input to a set, it will save only one, right? And as I already said, keys in dictionary are unique. Keys are like user defined indexes. Okay, you are not supposed to change the index value. Sorry, you are not supposed to change the index, but you can change the value which you are assigned to the index. We are only have rights to change the values once you created a key. Right? So tuples are immutable, that strings are immutable. Once a string can be created, you are not able to change or alter any character inside a string. You can try doing it, you can only create another string. And of course, numbers means, if you are telling about 125, okay, 125 is a number. There were three digits, 125. You know what one refers to? They were positional number system we are using. One refers to 100, two refers to 20s, and 5 refers to unit 5. So we are not able to change anything about it. So if you change any digit in a number, it becomes in another value, right? So it is not that immutable. If you change, it becomes an another variable. So that is why we put numbers inside a immutable part. What is the difference between list and a tuple? Both are sequence, both are ordered, both are ordered sequence. The difference comes around the list is mutable, but the tuples are immutable, which means we can change the values inside, we can manipulate the values inside a list as you want, but you cannot alter anything once a tuple has been created. And while implementing, you have to enclose the list using square bracket, whereas in tuple we are enclose it using parenthesis. And list is dynamic, it can grow and shrink as we want. If you wanted to add some more elements in the runtime, you can add it by using index. But tuples are fixed in length, okay, but it can be nested. So what is the real application? How can we use it? So list is better for performing operations such as insertion and deletion in real time. So whenever you are not knowing exactly about how many data items you are going to deal with, or you wanted to have a dynamic data type as a cushion, you can go with the list, right? But whenever you wanted your data not to be altered, it has to be a tamper proof one, you can go with tuples. Right? Since it is dynamic, list consumes more memory, and since it is fixed length, we are not going to change anything after the creation. Tuple is considerably very smaller than, it consumes less memory than the list. And list have several built-in methods, whereas tuple do not have most of the built-in functions, because we are not going to we are not going to modify so many things in tuple. So naturally we'll get some minimal number of built-in. So what do you mean by comprehension and what do you mean by list comprehension? So comprehensions in Python is provides us a way to generate a list or to create a list with respect to a condition. You just look at the example straight away. We are there in that example. We are creating a list, and how I'm saying I'm creating a list, because s equal to, which is enclosed in, all the expressions were enclosed inside a square bracket. So we are obviously speaking about list. So s is a list, and instead of giving value straight away, I'm creating something else. You just go into the square bracket x into x. So we are going to take a value of x and to find a square of it. For what values of x? For x in range 1 comma 11, which means it goes from 1 to 10. So 1 to 10, x becomes x equal to 1 to 10. For all the x belongs to x to 1 to 10, I am going to perform x square. If x modulo 2 equal to 0, which means we are speaking about even numbers. So I'm going to take even numbers from the range 1 to 11, which means 1 to 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I need to find the square of it. So you can find the output line. You can clearly see that 4, 6, 36, 4, 16, 36, 64, and 100. 2, 4, they were the squares of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Right. So this is an example of list comprehension. In list comprehension, we are able to create a new list of elements that satisfies a condition from an iterable. Iterable means a range, right? So you can also perform several other things. You can print, you can compute. Even if you wanted to compute anything, that also been possible inside list comprehension. So you just explore the ways of what are the types of list comprehension available in Python, which will be very interesting to know about it. So what do you mean by slicing? So slicing is used to build a new list, or it is used to extract a part of list in whichever the way we would like to display on it. So you just straight away go to the example, and slicing is possible in almost all the sequences, in almost all the ordered sequence. Wherever you are having an index, in all the places slicing is possible. Okay, so let's go with an example L, which is a list ABCDEFG, and I wanted to just look at the print statement. First I wanted to display the entire list, so I just simply passes the name of the list as a parameter as an argument to print function. So it simply displays it. Then I wanted to display the second element by calling the index 1. So B has been displayed. In the next print function, I wanted to go start with the second element and I need to end with the fourth element. So 1 represents the second element, 3 represents the fourth element, because they are indexed. So from index 1, 2, so 2 elements will be displayed. So it has to be noted that there is a colon before the colon, which means the starting place. You are specifying the starting place, which element you wanted to start, and the next to the colon, the second parameter is the place where you wanted to stop. It is like that, and range function, we will not reach the upper limit, we will go one step before, we will stop one step before. So if it is 3 means I will stop in 2. So that is why in fourth statement, I mean the third print statement, Even though it looks like 1 2 3, it will never reach 3, it will stop in 2. So index 1 and 2 will be displayed. The index 1 and 2 are B and C, right? So again, there you can see the fifth line in the program. There is a print statement, and we pass the list, and we start from 1, as we know, and 1 means we are starting from the second element. Okay, and we are going till -1. So what the -1 refers to, which is called negative indexing. So list or tuple or a string, even, they have two indexes. One index from left to right, which starts from 0 to n minus 1. If your list has 10 elements, then your index will be 0 to 9. Since we started from 0, it will never reach 10. It ends up in 9 itself. But there is another index also from right to left, the same elements. It starts from -1. Okay, so it starts from -1, -2, -3. From the last element it is -1, and the first element is the -10, because we are starting from, we are not starting from 0 here, we are starting from 1. In fact, it is -1. Even though it is -1, we are starting from 1 itself, no? So it uses the value n, which is -n, to the first element. So now you look at the list A, first element. So A has two index now, which is 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 elements, 0 to 6. And from G, it is -1 to -7. -1, -2, -5, -6, and -7. -7 is A. Now you can access the same element with two index, 0 or -7, both refers to A. So in that case, the last element is -1. So here the -1 refers to the last element. So I wanted to slice the list from the second element to the element which is before the last element. So B, C, D, E, F will be displayed. Okay, fine. And you can see the last line, sixth line. In fact, I used a colon, but I didn't specify anything as the first argument. I never stated the starting point. So which means by default it takes from the first element, and it goes till index 2, because it never reaches 3, right? So 0, 1, 2, A, B, C will be displayed. That you can see in the output screen. So this is one of the important data structure which is used by Python. Python dictionary. Python dictionary is an ordered collection of elements and is immutable. You have to note that here user creates the index, and the value index is called as key. It is just like a real-time dictionary. You can imagine now how you can find a meaning in a dictionary. We will go and find the first element, right? First element, on the right top corner there will be some words. So we will be matching, we will be start matching one word after the other word. First we find the page, fix the page, and go into the page, and from the first word we will be searching our word, right? So this is how we will access dictionary. That the same way here we are arranging our values with our own index. Unlike list, tuples, and strings, in those sequences indexes were created by system. So system generated index, it always generated from 0 to 1, 0 to n minus 1, in left to right, and of course, and -1 to -n from as negative indexing from right to left. So this is the default way of indexing in sequencing in Python, right? But we can break by using dictionary. You can look at the example third line, or first line. We are creating a dictionary by using the same set symbol. That is the same way we are using the set also. we are, what the difference between set and dictionary is that both using the set brackets, but if the set bracket used to have key and value pair, it becomes a dictionary, or it is considered as a set, right? Then I'm creating an empty dictionary or empty set there, and I have printed, I want to display. Since there is no element present in it, nothing has been displayed. And in the third line, I am creating a dictionary D1. Why I am calling it as a dictionary? Because it has key and value. Key 1 colon the value, and comma, by using comma you can stack all your values there. Whatever you want, you can add it. So there we are using 1 2 3 keys, and the values for the keys are A B C. We can also use a string or a character as key also. You just look at the fifth line. I'm using a character and mapping to a number. That is also possible. And we can also use another sequence inside a dictionary also. In fact you can use any sequence inside any other sequence. You can use a tuple inside a list, you can use a list inside a tuple, you can use a string inside a list tuple, and you can use a string or tuple inside a set. See, tuple is something immutable, and we know set is mutable, and you try to put immutable sequence into a immutable sequence, and try experiment what is happening around. And this is a way you could understand better the Python data structures. You just mix it up by passing a list into a mutable sequence into an immutable sequence, and immutable sequence into a mutable one, and see if it changes its properties and what is the change is occurring, if it is changes or not. So that and all you could experiment it. So as of now, in dictionary you can use anything as values. So there you can see we are using list and tuples also as values in 7th line, right? So that is all dictionaries. Dictionaries is a very high level data structure and the most used data structure in Python. So one of the fancy question is that those people who knows about C and Java already, they'll be knowing about arrays and list. So one striking difference between array and list, first we start with similarity. Both are sequences, both are using indexing. Okay, there is no negative indexing in arrays in other languages. What is the first difference is that an array is a data structure that holds fixed number of elements. So it isn't fixed data structure, it is a fixed one. The size is fixed, you cannot stretch the array beyond that. Okay, and you has to hold only a similar kind of data type, that is a homogeneous data structure. You can, if it is you wanted to store numbers, all the data elements should be numbers. If you start off with float, everything should be float. You should not mix up the different kinds of data elements. But list is heterogeneous in nature, you can put whatever you want inside. Okay, these are the two important differences between array and list. And by default, array is not a part of primitive data type or data structure of Python. If you wanted to use array, yes, of course we can use array by using by adding some other packages which has array in it. But array is not a basic data type or even basic data structure of Python. And there are two parts of the array. One is element and index, we know that better. And here also we have elements and index. And elements in the list are compulsory of the same data type, that we know already, because it is heterogeneous, you can use anything you want. It is dynamic, and again it is dynamic. And we can use both positive and negative index in list. So that's all between arrays and list. So what are the built-in libraries of Python? So there are as many libraries in Python. So here I list out some few significant libraries in Python. So NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, scikit-learn, and SciPy. So there are we discussed so many libraries in Python in the first video itself as application of Python. So you just have a look around it. And as we know, the last question of the series is that negative indexing in Python. And we have seen so many times, at least in this video, or we spoke about already negative index, what is indexing, what is negative index, what is positive index. Indexing is a way to access an element inside a sequence by using the location where it is present. Okay, there are two ways of naming the location. One is from left to right and right to left. If you starting from left to right, it is called positive index and it starts from 0. If you start from rightmost element, and it is called negative indexing. And you can see in the example itself, pre or ob probe. Probe is a word which is of length 5, and consider that it is in a sequence, any of the sequence. And the indexing from left to right, it starts from 0 to 4, and from left right to left, it starts from -1 to 5. So every element has two index. You can use any of the index to call the same element.